host, and, well, really, I should say welcome back to the Dr. Joe Show. So sorry for being away for the past few weeks. 3 weeks, I think it was, without an episode. Some very important behind-the-scenes business that had to be taken care of, and that is actually still ongoing, but needed my full attention. And in the very near future, you'll see what it is. It'll be very obvious, and you'll all go, well, it was damn well worth it. But right now, we're just back. We're back. And I did leave you with some goodies before I left. A few new series, different kind of episodes that the Dr. Joe Show is getting into. Number one, the cigar aging series that everyone has been waiting for. Well, so many people, and that I kept promising, has finally begun. And I promise I will not leave you hanging long before the next part of that installation comes on. So far, we released everything about the aging process as a process, how it works and why. And if you haven't watched it yet, even if you've been smoking cigars for a long time, if you have any interest in aging at all, I can almost assure you that you'll hear something that piques your interest. Part 2 will deal with how to age your cigars, using the aging process to your advantage, everything about humidity, temperature, etc., everything you need to know to keep your cigars in tip-top shape for decades and decades, even how to build your own wineador. So a lot of that coming up. We also left you with the new Habanews series, Habanos World News, which suddenly became Habanews after I finished editing the last piece, and I was actually uploading the first thing, and I went out on the porch and I was sitting, and it just hit me like, I don't know, sounds like a cool thing to call it. So a little corny, but cool nonetheless. The way the words fit together was just too perfect. So I called it Habanews. So how about that? And I hope you like that. Every known release to be released for 2014. Now remember, just because it's a 2014 release doesn't mean it will technically be released in 2014. So I have a lot of people emailing me and saying, you mentioned this release, where the hell is it? I can't find it. Well, it's not out yet. That's the thing. And to make things even more confusing, you have certain people commenting saying, oh yeah, well for 2015, this is coming out and this is coming out, and I'm going to get 2 boxes of that and 7 boxes of this and 6 boxes. Dude, slow down. 2014 hasn't even finished yet, and everything coming out for 2015 probably won't be here till 2016. Now sure, it's great to plan ahead, but work with what I give you. If I did a 2014 Habanews, there's going to be a 2015 Habanews. You don't have to sit there and type in every single box that you know is coming out for 2015. Yes, I saw the list online. There are about 17 different websites that have it. Thank you very much for that. Anyway, 2014 Habanews released so far. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Now, while I was away, I obviously had a few weeks to work up a new episode, and obviously it's time we get right back into our cigar review series, because that really has become the core of the Dr. Joe Show. There will be new faker finds, you know, we're going to do some different stuff, and as you can see, I'm releasing some different stuff, but the core always comes back to the cigars themselves. And you can't have a cigar show if you don't have cigar reviews. Not that they have to only be reviews, because they're not here. We talk about a little bit of everything. So, as I was saying, I had a few weeks to put together a bigger episode, and I wanted to get into a big brand. It's time for us to get back into our cigar review series, or our brand history cigar review series, whichever you want to call it, but that sounds a little long. That's why I just call it cigar review series. And it's also time for us to do another non-Cuban brand, because the last 2 brands we did were Cuban, and I like to go back and forth to keep everybody happy, including myself, because I like to stay in tune with the non-Cuban cigars. So anyway, today I bring to you Davidoff. Davidoff, Davidoff, Davidoff. It's a brand that I've been putting off for a while because it's huge and there is so much history involved that I needed a good amount of time to put together. So hopefully what you see now, today, will make up for that lost time. I assure you it's a very interesting episode for both Habanos lovers and regular cigar lovers alike. Not that I want to separate anybody, but, you know, everybody has their preferences. Because Davidoff was at one time a Cuban cigar brand, as many of us know. And while they had a huge deal of influence in how Cuban cigars turned out today. They had a huge deal of influence in the non-Cuban cigar market. In fact, everywhere they go, they have an influence. It's one of the very few cigar names that is widely known by everyone. Non-cigar smokers, non-smokers included. They are known for the good life, you know, good life products and good life image, and that's what they represent no matter what walk of life you're in. They have a huge following, as they are, as mentioned, a keystone player in the cigar industry. They've brought so many things to the table that we often see today and not really realize that, wow, you know, that was Davidoff that started all that. And we'll get into all of that, you know. But as so many big brands out there tend to do, they also have a very large following of people who hold a lot of animosity toward them, or a grudge toward them, or love to hate them, including the entire country of Cuba, or at least Cuba Tobacco, Habanos S.A., and Fidel Castro. So, you know, they have a lot of people that do not like them for so many various reasons. Either way, no matter what party you're in, if you love cigars, the review doesn't even matter. Because saying you love cigars and want to know about cigars and know a lot about cigars and not knowing anything about Davidoff, well, that just doesn't work. So today we are going to do Davidoff, starting with introducing the creator of Davidoff himself, Mr. Zino Davidoff, starting with his birth all the way up to his death. We're going to look at Davidoff in its Cuban years and Davidoff in its present years. And all that together is going to make a wonderful episode. And while doing that, we are going to review the Davidoff Special R from the Special line of Davidoff cigars. We'll get into exactly what that is as well. And I chose the Special R Tubo for a few reasons. I wanted to finally do a Tubo on the show. We haven't done any, just to show it off and talk a little bit about that. Also because later on you'll see that this cigar represents something that was is still so famous and highly sought after, and we'll look at that. But I also wanted to show you this. It's one of the very few tubes that anybody who's been smoking cigars for any amount of time knows that this is a Davidoff without even turning it around because of this. Now, does this thing actually make a huge difference? I don't know. I really don't know. What is it? Well, it's a little slot cut out in the tube that allows you to adjust exactly to the T how much humidity is getting into your tubes. Or, some say, and I tend to agree with this also, that when they're in the humidor, they're supposed to be like this, and when you take them out and are traveling with them, they're supposed to be like this. That makes sense. Does it really make a difference? I don't know. But it just goes to show another little piece of how inventive Davidoff was always trying to be. And this also actually recalls something else that Davidoff is not so well known for, but should be. We'll get into that later. So, a lot of reasons I wanted to show you that. Now, the Special R Tubo is 4 by 7/8 inches by 50. Except for that eighth of an inch, what is in America a classic Robusto. So why make it 4 7/8 of an inch instead of 5 inches? Well, because Davidoff is such a big brand that they are one of the very few non-Cuban cigars that have a very big counterfeiting problem. Davidoffs are counterfeited all over the place. Maybe not so much in America, but outside of America, they're counterfeited highly because they're still desired highly by so many cigar smokers out there. I'm trying to impress on you how big a brand they actually are, whether or not you actually like them. They're one of the few cigar brands to actually be commonly sold by Cuban cigar vendors. In fact, as everybody knows, my favorite vendor of the hour is Finest Cuban Cigars, and they sell Davidoffs. A lot of non-Cuban cigar vendors do, and they also sell Fuente. So some of the bigger brands are desired more around the world. Now, as you can tell, there's so much to talk about and a lot ahead of us. So let me leave you with a few pictures of our box of Davidoff Special Rs and the cigar, just to, you know, stay with the flow of the Dr. Joe format and style. Plus, it gets you in the mood to smoke, you know, looking at all that. Well, in this case, you'll be looking at a lot of metal, but you'll see the cigar too. And then we will light up, start reviewing our Special R Tubo while talking all about Davidoff. All right, a little eye candy for you and some tunes to get you in the mood. And meanwhile, I got my brand history right here. I will be reading from what I've written because I can't just, I can remember bits and pieces, but it won't flow the way I want it to. So I will read from here a bit and, of course, stop along the way to interrupt myself with some thoughts, as I always do, while reviewing our Special R Tubo. Now, this cigar should not be a problem for you to get. So please, smoke along with us and see what you think. And no, it does not have to be the Tubo. So, why don't we get her fired up? Smells pretty good, you know. Strong tobacco smell and a lot of cedar. A lot of cedar. But it doesn't, you know, it's funny. The cedar in tubes, for some reason, I guess the way they're trapped in there, it doesn't have that sweet, spicy, cedary aroma you get from certain boxes, and especially Cuban cigar boxes. It's more of a woody smell, just like that's the best I can describe, like a freshly sanded wood, you know, and some tobacco in there. A lot of tobacco. Smells a little sweet. Smells a little floral. Smells a little musty, a little dank. Very nice. Very, very, very well filled cigar. I mean, just like perfectly filled, perfectly cut. So, and that's what I was saying before about 4 7/8 of an inch instead of just 5 inches. Because cutting them perfectly to that length makes it harder to counterfeit. You gotta, you know, you measure them. It adds just another little piece of protection. Yeah, like woody. So there's our tubo with our humidity slot, whatever you want to call that. This is a nicely rolled cigar. Very nice looking wrapper. A couple of spots, a little, you know, looks very leathery. Not toothy at all. You know, very, it's smooth, but even has the feel almost of like supple leather. It's very, very firm, but it gives. I mean, it's not dry. Firm. Capped nicely. Very nice looking cigar. You know, and one thing I'm wondering while looking at this, the wrapper shade of Davidoff's varies so much lately. We'll get into that, about what they are and what they used to be, and we'll talk more later about the blend of this cigar. That's why I haven't said anything about it yet. But I've seen Special R's with really dark wrappers. I've seen them with really light wrappers. This, I tried to get one that's right in the middle, so it wouldn't be, oh, I get a dark one, get a light one. Something that's the norm since I'm reviewing it. You know, nice looking foot. No veins, hard veins, stems, anything like that. Very nicely bunched tobacco. Looks really good. Looks really good. Okay, let's cut it. I'm trying to think. It's like there's something on my mind I wanted to say, but I forgot. But we shall see. All right, let's get a little cap off there. Well, here goes nothing. You know, that's so distinct of Dominican cigars right there. It's woody. It has kind of like a fruity note at the back of the palate. A little musty, a little bit of spice coming through. I almost want to call it like cherry wood. You know, there's like this kind of dried fruit note at the back of the palate, but I don't... Kind of apricot-y almost. Not a lot of salt. More spice kicking in. Fairly woody. All right, let's get it lit. You know, decent pre-draw. Definitely a high-grade cigar. You know. Subtle flavors. Nothing here that's blowing me away, but definitely nothing that's offensive either. Now it's toned down to being just really like good tobacco flavor. You know, not a lot of special stuff going on. And more spice. Surprisingly, a lot of spice building up on the pre-draw. Yeah. I got some of these matches from the local cigar shop. These are some new Davidoff matches they came out with. And I wanted to show them to you because they are impressive. Say goodnight, Max.